The upcoming Terminator real-time strategy game is shaping up to be an amazing, feature-rich title focused on tactical combat gameplay and strategic planning with an army you carry over and customize between the missions in its single-player campaign. While during the storyline mode you are limited to a single faction, the ex-USA military personnel of the Founders, in the skirmish and multiplayer you will be able to play as the Movement, a heavily armed civilian force, and the AI machines of the Legion. The game producers have gone the extra mile and added a feature all RTS fans love, the live action full motion video, FMV for short. These drop a lot of information and lore while being filmed as realistic as possible, sucking you into the setting of the game.
We're out of here. Being in the movement means always on the move, right?
Do note that this is a different timeline than the one in the movies, so there is no John Connor in this universe, leaving the door open for you to become the hero who leads the fight against the Legion AI and its Terminators. This team of developers and publishers at Slytherin Software have saved the game after its original developer stopped working on it, and they have even opened the applications for a beta which might start soon. Now let's take a deep dive into the features and gameplay which Terminator Dark Fate Defiance will offer to its players while we watch one of its single-player story missions which has many gameplay details I want to turn your attention to. I must admit that the gameplay and features I have learned about remind me heavily of Soldiers of Anarchy, a 2002 squad-based real-time tactics game that is one of my favorite games ever and which I replayed countless times. The features these two games share are many, beginning how units are the crew of vehicles and they can leave vehicles, go back into them, even do battlefield repairs. The enemy actually does the same, so don't expect them to stay put once disabled, they are machines after all. You have to keep the pressure on and attack until you destroy them, preferably from range, with air support or heavy firepower. Each unit has an inventory for ammo and weapons, and they can pick up new weapons from the map dropped by both dead allies and enemies. Ammo is expended in combat, and units can resupply during a battle from tanks and APCs which carry extra ammo or special supply vehicles which set up temporary resupply bases on the map. During missions, you can meet squads and crews which might join your army and have some unique personalities. And over the course of the storyline in the campaign, they will have certain interactions with other such characters. Between missions, you can buy new squads, sell old ones, upgrade them, and change their equipment in the separate customization screen. The weapons and armor of units and vehicles can be changed, but also brought and sold from different traders in bases you visit on the world map. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the world map during the gameplay which was shown. What we did see to begin with is the number of units you can bring in a medium-sized battle. This being about 10 vehicles and several dozen infantry squads, which the developers explained that you can have up to 3 times this many in some missions. The types of vehicles go from the main battle tank and heavily armed infantry fighting vehicles to Humvees with different weapon mounts and what look like supersized technicals with heavy caliber guns. If we look closely enough, we can spot veterancy markings like chevrons and stars. These also show up on the icons of the foot soldiers, which are divided into basic and specialized squads. Depending on their equipment and tactics which they are trained for, they can have just 2 or up to 8 or more squad members. Some are just basic infantry, but others are snipers, technicians, drivers, heavy weapon specialists, or anti-vehicle squads. If you have ever played Company of Heroes or Dawn of War, you will be quite familiar with the system. For more information, you have to select individual vehicles or squads, and then down in the bottom left corner, you will see their current stats like ammo count, health, armor, equipped heavy weapons, grenades, and similar items. Despite some units having half a dozen different weapons and ammo types, they are trained to know which are the best to use in which situation and against which enemy type. meaning you do not have to micromanage that element during gameplay, but you do have the option to click on an ammo or weapon type to prevent its use. If a vehicle has certain upgrades or some of its modules have been damaged, you will see the relevant info with these icons. This is because in Terminator Dark Fate Defiance, vehicles can have their engines disabled, tracks blown off, weapons broken, and other such individual damage done to them as they are hit by various types of weapons and ammunition. Infantry units in this game can take positions on top of buildings, gaining cover and better lines of sight. If caught in the open, these types of units can use different stances to present a smaller target and take less damage. An ability to drop smoke grenades on the battlefield is very useful in such situations and can help you get behind cover faster. In fact, everything in the game can be a form of cover, because the environment is totally destructible and already destroyed vehicles create barriers to hide behind or block new enemies from passing through. Your units can actually hack Legion vehicles disabled by attacks from EMP weapons, such as the grenade from a specialist infantry squad, and turn them into temporary allies for the remainder of the mission. This isn't easy, but it pays off a lot, as losing these allies doesn't cost you anything and you can't take them to future missions anyway. All these missions are dynamic and new objectives will show up as they develop, with even other factions which are present on the map giving you secondary objectives, which if you fulfill, you can expect some type of a reward, possibly in new squads joining your army. This is where having a lot of units on the battlefield comes into play, as you have to split them up to be able to go after these secondary objectives. And the map size is big enough to prevent such new battles from interfering with the main objective. Another feature of the game will help you here, the call-in air support from specialist infantry squads which have this option. Considering your troops will be all over the map in some moments, you might lack the firepower to destroy enemy armor. But do note, it takes time for the different kinds of planes to arrive and your enemy might move, so it is best to pin them down until the air support arrives, as you can't change the location of the air bombardment once you have called it in. Each faction in the game has different air support types, and they use not just different planes, but also different weapons. And on the subject of weapons, this game has everything from projectile to plasma weapons. What I found interesting about all of them is how your units using them will miss their shots from time to time, so the accuracy isn't perfect, even with rare and expensive weapon systems. This isn't something you see in RTS games every day. Now, since you can take weapons off dead enemies, you can equip your own troops with those Terminator plasma guns, or just sell and trade them between missions. To get most out of this feature, the developers have allowed for you to spend time on maps after completing mission objectives, scavenging for dropped weapons from all factions and packing them up. Since up to 4 different factions can be seen in combat on a single map, you can gain a lot of different weaponry. In the more stealth-oriented missions, this won't be something you can profit from, as there are generally fewer units in such missions and less destruction of enemy squads, but they should give you a nice rest from the huge battles in other missions. You can't even play all the missions in a single playthrough, as your choices will direct which missions you have available and some will disappear as a result of finishing other ones. By the end of each of these missions, you will probably leave with totally new units, as there are plenty of people who want to join your founder's army if you are willing to do the legwork and check every corner of the map. This is another feature this game has in common with Soldiers of Anarchy. If you remember that game or have played anything like it before, do let me know down in the comments. There is even a special faction called the Integrators, who are a group of marauders and from which you can get extra tech and units if you don't start a fight with them, because then you can forget about any help to your cause. As for other game modes, there will be skirmish and multiplayer. In these modes you will have a sort of a reinforcement system, where you will get more and more units on the map as the battle goes on. But of course, no base building or carrying over units to next matches. I am personally impressed by what the developers have done in bringing the Terminator lore and world into an RTS, and can't wait to play this game once the beta is live or the game is fully released. To see more similar games, check out the card on the screen. Thank you for watching and happy gaming.